As we all know, arowanas breed in the wild or in special facilities or earthen ponds. However, recently there were clips circulating various social media platforms of arowanas that successfully spawned in the tank. But do we all know what we should look after when our arowana pair is about to spawn or lay eggs? So in this video, I will share with you the things that you should watch out for when your arrow pair is about to have eggs. An arowana pair, as I have covered in my previous video entitled 5 Signs Arowanas Are Pairing Up or Spawning, would mate for several days or even probably weeks or months before they actually spawn or have eggs. So, it is advisable that when you first notice this mating behavior is to transfer or isolate the mating pair because of the possibility of spawning or having eggs. Okay, now that you have transferred your mating pair in a solo tank, the question is, what are the signs that you must look after when your arowana pair is about to lay eggs? First, you will notice that your female arrow will become aggressive in the mating process. It is a common scene with arowana breeding that the male arrow is the one that usually initiates the contact with the female. However, based on what I saw from my pair, the female during the early stage of spawning will have episodes of it actually inviting the male arrow to rub bodies with her. This behavior is also accompanied by the female's lower jaw getting bigger as if it is about to start a fight. But no biting will transpire. Instead, it would often lead to the rubbing of bodies with the male arrow. Another thing that you will notice is that mating or rubbing of bodies will become more frequent. Sure that before your pair actually spawns, they will rub bodies for a couple of times for days or weeks, but what I mean is the frequent rubbing of bodies will take place with short intervals. In my case, within a period of 2 to 3 hours, my pair rubbed bodies 4 or 5 times and would go on for several days. Next, according to a very friendly Singaporean arowana breeder, and based from what I have noticed from my arrow pair, during the mating process, they will develop the so-called breeding lines or breeding marks. This is when you notice that both the male and the female's lower jaws would turn blackish or the lower jaws would darken. This, according to him, and also from what I noticed from my arrow pair, is especially prominent with the male arrow. This breeding line or mark again starts to appear days before your pair spawns. Here is a proven male arrow. He was the partner of my green female when they first spawned. Notice the absence of breeding lines, but in this old clip, when he was still carrying the eggs in his mouth, he had the dark marks on his jaws. The next sign that you will notice when your female arrow is about to lay eggs is that for a few days before it actually lays the eggs, it will lose its appetite. Now, for some hobbyists, this might cause some concerns since, as we all know, loss of appetite is an early sign of an arowana getting stressed or worse, getting sick. But remember, you isolated a possible pair. So, if you have seen your arrow pair mate in the solo tank for a couple of times, then the loss of appetite might be an indication that your female arrow is going to lay eggs in the next few days. On the other hand, the male will eat a lot during this period, probably beefing up since he knows that once the female drops the eggs, his job is to carry the eggs in his mouth, which would mean no eating for a couple of weeks. The next is that the female arrow's anal part will swell. Again, this might appear that your arowana is suffering from a disease. It can easily be mistaken as the protruding anus disease due to the swelling of the anus. However, the distinction between the two, at least from my observation, is that when an arrow is suffering from protruding anus disease, its anal part would have a reddish pimple-like thing that would bulge from its anus. On the other hand, when it is about to drop the eggs, there would also be a visible bulging thing from its anus and would also look like a pimple, but the color would be lighter than red. It can be pinkish or like the color of its flesh. And this is, by the way, observable a few days before the actual laying of eggs. Meanwhile, on the day your female arrow is actually going to drop the eggs, you will notice that the swelling of its anus would become bigger, at least a little less than the size of a marble. A few hours before your female drops its eggs, you will observe that it would lay motionless at a particular spot and at the bottom of your tank. Usually, the female would choose a spot with little to no water movement, while the male arrow would swim on all sides of the tank, up and down, as if checking the surroundings for potential threat. So there you have it, guys, the signs that you have to watch out for when your arowana pair is about to have eggs or about to spawn. I hope that you found the video informative, and please stay tuned for more arowana talk only here on my channel. Bye for now.